Hello, hello. I am actually starting on time for once. How is everyone today? I think I'm on time. Yeah, on the nose. I was actually ready early today. Typically, that doesn't happen. So, hopefully, everyone's having a good weekend and you've been able to watch the two very big, very nerd heavy shows we've been able to witness this week. It's a big week for comic book lovers, really. I mean, I can't even get past the fact that we got the Snyder cut at all, little alone in the exact same weekend we got the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, ah, at any rate, while people hopefully start joining, I will just kind of talk about things going on. Um, Not sure what we're looking at with uh, well, let's just start with this. I'm gonna try to start this with Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I think more people will probably have gotten through that before they have gotten through Justice League. So I'm gonna probably start there, and then we can kind of transition into that later. So once people start rolling in, I'll kind of gauge that to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. But at the same time, I do want to talk about both because I have thoughts on each, and I know there are going to be some of you who do as well. So whenever you have a thought, want to say something, chime in. Um, Otherwise, I'll just start riffing. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That is not what I was expecting. Not entirely. That was a surprise in a good way, I suppose. I was expecting something along the lines of, well, The Winter Soldier, the movie. And I didn't expect it to kind of expand on that. So that was a welcome surprise. I'm really, weirdly, after I watched it, I wasn't that enthusiastic about it. But the more I think about it, the more I really like what they're doing with the characters. I have no idea where they're going with it, but I really like what they're setting up. And I have I have zero idea where it's really going. I mean, obviously, it's going to touch on, uh, Sam trying to figure out his path to being Captain America, kind of accepting himself in order to accept that mantle. And I really think that's what this. If let's say WandaVision was about grief, I think this show is about acceptance of yourself, and that is the journey we're going to be on for those two. Because I mean, looking at Bucky and the trauma, goodness, Nikki, yeah, you avoided all the trailers. I watched the very first one. I watched the very first one, the Super Bowl one, and I've avoided everything else. I typically do that anymore. Even if you watch my reactions on the channel, I usually watch the first trailer and I try not to watch any of the others. More Justice League by Snyder. We're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to that. I want to start with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we're going to get to that because I'm very surprised at my reaction to Justice League. But yeah, and like you, Nikki, I don't really have an idea based on trailers or anything. I have no idea where the show's going to go. I mean, I know who the villain is just because I've seen the posters, I saw the original trailer, and they kind of announced who it was going to be, or well, at least a villain in the series is going to be. So but I don't know if there are going to be other villains. I mean, heck, there was already a new villain this week. There was a super that showed up and punched Torres and nearly killed him. So I don't even know who that is. I mean, heck, people are throwing out things like one of my thoughts was, is it a scroll? I mean, are we going to get scrolls in this? Because they're starting to pop up places. Or is it just some super that is working for this organization? Jackson, I loved how badass they made Falcon in the opening scene and how deep they've made Bucky. They set the tone very early in this show. They really did. They really did. That's a good point. They really showed off how skilled Sam is. I mean, if you look at how well he handled himself, he doesn't have super soldier serum, but he's fast. He's very fast. He's very quick on his feet and also quick in his thinking. And that is where he, I don't want to say supersedes Steve, but that's where he kind of uh, is comparable because he is that quick, because he is that agile. And he's a smart fighter and a quick fighter. And I like that they really illustrated that. And Bucky, yeah, what can you say about Bucky? We already knew he was a, I don't even know, I almost called him a hammer, but he's not. He's a precision tool. But wow, seeing the worst part of Bucky. Just the very first thing we see about Bucky is the very worst part of him. Wow, talk about setting a tone. Susan, Marvel is so good at telling stories. I cannot wait to see where we are going. Right. I mean, I was saying I was expecting something along the lines of the movie The Winter Soldier, you know, a spy thriller, you know, because it was a very nuanced thriller, and it was very exciting, and we were getting into the politics and stuff like that. We started with character in this, and granted, we did that in Winter Soldier too, but in this case, we really just delved into the characters, as well as, you know, there's this story going on, there's something going on with this terrorist organization, but we don't have, that was kind of the B story. The A story was Bucky and Sam, and that surprised me. Nikki, I had expected for them to jump right into the chemistry with Sam and Bucky. I like that they set up where they started from without them even meeting yet. Right, right. I really expected, okay, this episode's going to end with at least them together. No, no. We're hi Corey, by the way, I'm just seeing this. Yo. Yeah, I mean, and this is what Marvel has been defying with WandaVision and now this. Every time I'm expecting something because it's kind of a trope of a TV series, they don't do that. Because if this was another series, okay, at the end, okay, this movie's about, just using as an example, this movie's, or TV show's about Arrow and the Flash. You know, Arrow and the Flash, that's the name of the show. Well, Green Arrow and the Flash are going to meet in that first episode. By the end of that episode, they're meeting at the end. That's TV formula. Marvel's not doing that, and I love it. I mean, granted, I want them together, and I think probably next week we'll get them together. I haven't watched previews. I'm not going to, but I'm hoping next week we get them together just because I want to see that interaction. And plus, I don't think we have that many episodes. But yeah, I love that about their storytelling. They just defy what is common. Susan, Bucky will be the one I will be heartsick over as he comes to term with who he was and who he is now. I'm telling you now, I know how this series is going to, or I guess it would be not series, I guess season is going to end. Bucky, I think Bucky said his final line about how he's going to accept himself in this episode. I don't want to say it because actually I'll misquote it anyway, but he says a line about how he's not the Winter Soldier. My name is Bucky Barnes. He's going to finally say that and mean it before this season is over. That is my theory. He's going to finally say that and mean it. And it's going to break a lot of hearts. It's going to be, because that's going to be a real self-realization moment for him and for the audience, just because we're rooting for him. Crimson. So wait, if Bucky needs to atone for everyone he's wrong, what's he going to do for the Starks now that Tony is gone? Huh. I don't think he's atoning for everyone he's wronged, or maybe he is. We only saw one page in his book, but maybe he thinks he already has in some way. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a very good question. I mean, he could basically by joining the Avengers or something, or basically just doing good in general. Maybe that's his way of atoning. I don't know. I can't recall an instance where he specifically helped Tony. So that's a very good question. If somebody has a theory on that, leave it in the chat and maybe we can talk about it more. Because I don't know how do you atone for that? I mean, he can't atone for a lot of the things. How does he atone for the guy whose son he murdered? You don't. You can't. You can only do your best. Um, J Black, did you see the credits art? There is a subject 02656 written down next to a pic of a black man, maybe a secret super soldier like Isaiah Bradley, aka Black Cap. I did not see that. I did not. It's in the credits art. They're good about Easter eggs in that art though. I don't trust the art anymore after WandaVision because we had so many Easter eggs in that original opening, and actually several Easter eggs to other things like what's his name, Grim Reaper. They had Easter eggs to that, and that never panned out. So I no longer trust Easter eggs like that. But it is a cool nod, which even if they don't go to it in this one, maybe we'll get it later. Because Marvel likes to do that. They'll set things up and then pay it off way down the line. Jackson, the part where it is revealed the old man is the father of the kid Bucky killed showed how dark and deep the show is going to be. That scene definitely hit me hard. I agree. Oh my goodness, that scene has stayed with me all weekend. That, I was sitting there watching that scene thinking, oh, Bucky does have a friend. This is great. He actually made friends with somebody. And I was even sitting there thinking, oh, is this somebody maybe from World War II that he knew and doesn't remember him? Something like that, because he wasn't really talking. You couldn't tell if the elderly man knew him like from before quite, or if they were new friends. So I'm kind of like, okay, or maybe he's just more comfortable with someone that age because, you know, Bucky's been around for a while. And so to see that kind of slow reveal, that moment where he just, you could see his heart sink as the older man talked about his son. That, and then to have, well, then have poor Bucky on a date and leave the girl because he can't stop thinking about it. I feel for Bucky because I don't know how he's going to have a normal life. I really don't. I kind of hope this series ends with Falcon and Bucky getting a place together and Bucky moving in, because maybe Sam needs to keep an eye on him because this poor guy, he's dealing with a lot. And what sucks is with Bucky especially is it's not his fault. This is a situation where he was at all aware of what he was doing. This is a situation where somebody was completely controlling him and he had no control, no free will of his own. So to see him try to struggle with his own free will and what he did in the past when he had no control over it, it's, man, that kind of trauma. We're not going to, Jay, we're not going to do Justice League quite yet because I'm wanting to get through Falcon and Winter Soldier first. But yeah, I've heard some things about that. So hold on to that. We'll come back to that. But yeah, so overall in this episode, if anything, what I'm thinking is it's a lot of setup, but I don't know what it's setting up other than this journey that both Sam and Bucky are on. Because Sam's got to be on a journey where he's looking for, this is the way I take it. Sam isn't ready to accept the responsibility of Cap because he doesn't feel like he's worthy. And the thing is, I think a lot of us know he is, but he's got to accept that. He's got to believe that. And I think that's what this series is going to be about, is him accepting the fact that, no, he doesn't need to be Steve Rogers. He needs to be Sam Wilson. Because that might just be the Captain America the world needs at the moment. Maybe Steve isn't the Captain America the world would need anymore. Maybe it would be a Sam. And hopefully that's what we're going to see with him. And with Bucky, it's obviously going to be him accepting the fact that he's Bucky Barnes. He is not the Winter Soldier. And I think that is the journey we're on for this season, as well as obviously punchy, kicky explosions. What if the twist is that Bucky needs to stop disassociating himself from the Winter Soldier and embraces it? That's an interesting. That is an interesting thought. But I think, to me personally, I think he already does embrace it more than he should. I think he I think he actually still thinks he's the Winter Soldier. He still blames himself for all the things he did, even though he wasn't in control of himself. Someone else was literally in control of him. That is far beyond anything any of us will ever deal with, unless you've been brainwashed into an assassin and controlled for 100 years by a secret Nazi group. So, I mean, the insanity of that weight, yeah, I think he actually holds that weight too much. So maybe there is a form of embracing it while also letting go of it. I can see that. Like, he has to accept that he did it, but also accept that he wasn't in control of it. Fear and loathing. No control while it's happening, but retaining all the memories afterwards and seeing them as nightmares. Poor guy. Exactly. Exactly. He's just sitting there trying to deal with the fact that he did these things. And I mean, how would that feel? How would you feel to know you were doing all this? You have all the memories, like you were in control. If you have the memories, it's going to feel like you were in control. You're going to have every single emotion and everything associated with it. How bad would that change you? Granted, though, the emotions probably tied to it were kind of null. Like, he was probably devoid of emotion for the most part when doing those things. So, small miracle, I guess? Nikki, I love how Bucky just mentions how old he is because he knows people think it's a joke. I like how he hasn't danced since 1943 and telling the girl he's 106. Right, right. I mean, how old are you? 106? Okay, funny. Yeah, I love that. Because the only people that know it's true are Avengers, basically. But yeah, I mean, one of these days he's going to have to say it to somebody and they're going to take him seriously, I hope. Poor guy. I mean, yeah, it's hard enough dating when you're my age. I can't imagine when you're 106. Susan, have you noticed there's a lot of trauma in Marvel right now? Really? Yeah, but that makes sense. You know what? That makes sense because of Endgame and Infinity War. That's what they set up with. I mean, the blip, the snap, all of the things that occurred over those movies, it's going to leave the entire world in a traumatic state. So the best way they've handled it now, because quite frankly, they didn't handle it at all in Spider-Man, which Far From Home, which took place directly after, they kind of just glossed over it. So now I love the fact that they're really fully embracing the trauma that would be involved with all the events that took place in those two movies. Wanda had to deal with the trauma of loss, which a lot of people would have because of what occurred in both those films. And now we're seeing the trauma from Bucky and Sam, which Sam's kind of dealing with. He lost his best friend to a degree because Cap's not around anymore. And Bucky dealing with horrible trauma. So yeah, it's like the whole world is dealing with trauma. And even the terrorist organization is a form of trauma, if you think about it. They want the world to go back to the way it was before the second snap. That's a form of denial. That's like almost a different type of trauma. It's crazy how all the themes they're just delving into. It's really cool. It's surprising to see them embrace this. Jay, if this new shield is like the comics, then it is not vibranium. It's a mix of adamantium and vibranium. Well, I don't think this is a new shield. I think that was Cap's shield that he was holding. I think it's still the same old shield, and they just gave it to U.S. Agent, or whatever his name's going to be. He's Captain America in this, but U.S. Agent was what he was in the comics. I don't remember his real name, to be honest. I don't know the character all that well. Crimson, I'm just saying that with Batman in mind. I'm just saying that with Batman in mind. And how Bruce embraced and made his fear his own. Right, okay, I get what you were saying earlier, where you were saying maybe he needs to embrace the Winter Soldier. Yeah, maybe he does need to embrace the fact that those violent tendencies might exist within him. And that's something he needs to come to terms with. Maybe that is kind of his meeting halfway to well, I'm not the Winter Soldier, but I kind of am. So I could see something like that. That's a very good. That's a good theory. I could see something like that. Jackson, is the new Captain America going to be the main villain? I know nothing about him, but I already know I don't like him. I know so many people are like booing this poor man, and we don't know a thing about him. For all we know, he could be as humble as could be and the nicest guy, but you're wearing Cap's colors and you're holding his shield. He didn't give you those. So all of us are like, no, 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 not yours. So I I think he's going to be an antagonist, but he may not be a bad guy. I think he's going to be. This is my theory. I've seen nothing about this in previews, read nothing. And just going by what little I do know of U.S. Agent, I think this character is going to be more or less misguided and a pawn trying to do good, and he's not going to live up to it at all. He's going to be more or less what they were trying to make Steve into in the original Captain America, in the first Avenger, where he was doing all the war bonds, you know, parade or not parades, dance shows, what they're called, cavalcades, you know, USO type shows, and trying to get people to buy war bonds, and you know, basically shilling for the government. I think that's what this guy is going to basically be. I think they will probably send him into some war zones, but it's all going to be show. I have this feeling that he's really not cut out for this, and the government's only doing it to. It's I don't want to say advertising. It's PR. It's PR, and I don't even think I think he's going to think he's skilled, and he's really not. Or I mean, he's going to be skilled, but maybe not to the level they're puffing him up to be. Crimson, when I say he can't move from the dissociating himself from the Winter Soldier, right. So he just needs to accept it as part of himself. Because I think Bucky probably needs someone to punish him before he can feel right to move on. Like Tony almost did, but Bucky escaped the consequences thanks to Cap. Right. I think Bucky is still in a mode where he feels like he's punishing himself for what he did as Winter Soldier. He's still trying to come to terms with it because he doesn't know if he should be at peace. I think that joke, oh, I just want peace. No, he doesn't. I think Bucky thinks maybe he should be punished. He's not sure. I think that's the weirdest thing about Bucky right now. I don't think he knows exactly what he wants or how he should feel. I think he's at this point of, am I good? Am I bad? What am I? So that's why he's comes off as so indifferent to a degree, because he doesn't know how to feel. I think that's a part of what makes him so broken. I mean, can you imagine where all his emotions are going all the time? Ugh. U.S. Agent is actually Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt. Yes, I knew that. That is awesome. Because Kurt Russell back in the day would have been a great Cap. A really funny one, but he'd have been a great Cap. Crimson, hope fake Cap doesn't turn out to secretly be Homelander from The Boys. That's perfect. You could almost cast that actor as fake Cap, to be honest. Because, yeah, that's going to be a rough role for this person. Not for the actor, for the person stepping in as Cap. I don't envy him, and that's why I'm already sitting here. I'm kind of laughing at the fact that I've seen so many people throw hate on this guy. We've not seen anything from him yet. We've seen, like, him hold the shield in front of a camera, cut the credits. You know, that was it. And people already hate him. For all we know, he's saving puppies on the weekends, and you know he's got 12 adopted kids that he's taken in. We don't know what this guy is even like. We just know he's holding Cap's shield, and it belongs to somebody else. A shield that somebody else gave him. Think about that. The government gave him the shield. There's a lot of symbolism in that. You know, Sam gave the government the shield thinking they would protect it, and they gave it away to somebody else. There's a lot to that. All right, so are we good with transitioning to Justice League now, or should we still keep talking uh, Winter Soldier and Cap? If you guys have gotten all your theories and thoughts out, we can go ahead and transition over. I'm just going to kind of wait for you to come in because I have so many thoughts about Justice League. And hopefully you guys have been able to see it too by now so we can talk about it. Oh yeah, that's a good point too there, Jay. Falcon blames himself for Cap being disrespected. Yeah, that's a really good point because seeing that shield with somebody else, a shield you were entrusted with, man, it would feel like you let your guy down. You would feel like you let Cap down because that shield wasn't supposed to go to somebody else. Fear and Loathing, Justice League now. Okay, we'll go ahead and transition to Justice League. Hopefully everybody's seen it. If not, I actually implore you to go watch it. I implore you to definitely go watch it because only watched half. Crimson. Finish it. Honestly, finish it because let's start with non-spoiler then. For the people who are here that have not watched it, or maybe you're only halfway through, let's start there real quick. I'm just going to say, I'm not the biggest fan of Batman versus Superman. Either version, the Ultimate Edition or the theatrical, not the biggest fan. I love Man of Steel, though. To a degree. There's still some choices in that I really hate. That said, I am so glad I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is, if anything, well, one, it's a better movie. Yeah, it's a very long movie. Trust me. I'm trying to edit a reaction to a 4-hour movie. I should have it done next December. At any rate, what I was going to say is, if anything, this is a masterclass in showing what two different directors can do with movies, because this is not the same movie at all as what we got before. Even scenes that are the same, like the same beats from the last movie, don't land the same. And I kept forgetting scenes. Like, I'd be watching the movie. I've seen the original Justice League 2 or 3 times because there were certain scenes I just absolutely loved. And when those scenes came up, they landed completely differently. The scenes that were Zack Snyder's, they're cut so differently. The music's so different. The way it's handled is so different. It feels like the other movie was a trailer for this one. A very early trailer, and a lot of things changed. So, no spoiler here, but I'm going to say it didn't feel like there was any waste of time in the movie. It was definitely long, but all of it was necessary. I will disagree there. Well, I'll get into that more when we're talking spoilers. But just, honestly, overall thoughts, I really liked it, bordering on loved it. I did not expect that, especially after BVS. That's where I was going with that. After BVS, where I'm very, at best, lukewarm on that movie, I'm bordering on loving this. And I honestly can't wait to watch it again just to see where I do fall on it now. I do think it has its problems, but I love the fact that it is separated into parts, so you can stop it at any one of those parts. You can watch part 1, part 2, part 3 and go, okay, I'm good for the day. And then watch 3, 4, 5, 6. That was one of the smartest things they did. So, okay. And so, yes, I even the characterization. Oh my goodness, the characterization is so much better. The story is so much better. The villain is so much better. So what I'm saying is it's so much better. So if you're still here, check out, because we're going to go into spoilers. I'm going to start reading what people were saying, and then we're going to jump right into spoilers. Thank the Lord, the Flash and Cyborg were the heart and soul of this. Yes. Yes, they were. They got the most character development out of this cut than anyone else. Because, well, at this point, Wonder Woman's already had her own movie, so she didn't really need her own big arc. Aquaman, I think they were pretty sure he was getting his own movie, so they didn't really need to spend too much time on him. I mean, they did spare a fair amount of time with him, but they didn't need to fully go into everything with him. But Cyborg and Flash, yeah, absolutely. They were the heart and soul, and if they were the heart and soul, Bruce was the linchpin. It was like that. Those were kind of the three that. Those two were the I don't want to say focus, but you're right, heart and soul. But Bruce is what kind of held everybody together, and far more so than the original cut. BVS is a zero issue for this event comic movie. Disagree, at least because of long panel shots, Jack, at least so far. Yeah, Crimson, that's where I was going. There are some scenes. There are some Zack Snyder-y things. Zack Snyder has never Zack Snydered more than except in maybe Sucker Punch. But this was his vision, so he didn't have to pull back at all. There are scenes in this that go on way too long. I didn't need a 5-minute shot of Lois walking through the streets in slow motion. That was driving me insane. I'm going, dude, pull back. We got it. We got it. It was way too self-indulgent. It was just way too self-indulgent. And no, I was not a fan of that. But, and I say this actually in my wrap-up of the reaction I'm doing. There were scenes where I could actually cut out 10 minutes of just slow motion in this movie, but at the same time, I can't picture a lot of plot lines I would cut. Like, this movie feels mostly necessary. Like 99% of what I saw on screen was necessary for the story he was telling. Yeah, come on back when you're done, Crimson. Thanks for coming by. This movie made me want a Cyborg solo movie. That's how good his character was. His character was treated with such care and respect. I loved it. It was so different from what we originally saw, because a friend of mine pointed this out. In the original movie, it felt like he was just ungrateful for being alive and, you know, his dad saving him. Because there was nothing more to it other than he was moping around in an apartment and didn't like that he was a cyborg, and his dad saved his life by turning him into a cyborg. The end. That was kind of like the whole arc he had in the original. In this, though, you got to see what his life was like before. You got to see the horrible decision. Yeah, and it was the decision his dad had to make, and how it was kind of a Dr. Frankenstein moment where he made I have no idea what this is going to do to my son, but it's better than him being dead. That was the call he made. And it was very much a callback to Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein, because he even was basically shooting electricity. It wasn't, but I mean, it looked like he was shooting electricity into a device to bring his son back to life. It was all very Frankenstein. And it played like that story, like the original story, not just the movie, like the original story where it's a man who's cobbled together and very broken and unsure about himself and ultimately becomes a monster. But in this case, our monster is Vic, and he did not. That whole storyline, how it ended even, how that ended, the themes of him accepting himself, that was such a powerful story. His final battle was acceptance. And it worked. In so many films, that would be so heavy-handed, but it wasn't. Because we got to see the fact that he couldn't accept who or what he was now. I loved it. I absolutely loved how they handled that. Fear and Loathing, we need to feel her handing off coffee. Yes, come on, Zack, we didn't need 5 minutes to show that Lois was sad. We know she's sad. You could have had plenty of just, single shots of her sad, and we would have understood. Yes, she lost the love of her life. She's wearing the ring he gave her. Lois is sad. And this is coming from a guy who, favorite super couple is Lois and Clark. But In fact, if I was going to cut any, if this was going to get cut at all, the lowest scenes would go for me. Her in the apartment, just being alone and sad. Her and honestly, I hate to say it because Martian Manhunter is one of my favorite characters, but her and the Martian Manhunter scene would go just for timing because it really didn't add anything to the story. It was just cool. Martian Manhunter showed up, which I would trust me, that'll be in the reaction. I flipped the F out. But it really didn't add anything to the story. It really didn't add anything to the overall story, other than we know that Lois came to that site every single day. Okay, you could have established that pretty easily already. You didn't need all those scenes. Cyborg was a quintessential superhero in this movie. He was a hero before the accident, and he chose to stay a hero with the options of being the greatest villain of the modern era. I loved that. I loved that line. His dad telling him, the challenge isn't going to be doing these things. The challenge will be not doing these things. Because the world was at his fingertips. And that, in a way, he is just as powerful as Superman. If not more, because he could fundamentally change the entire world at once if he wanted to. I love, and that makes him such a good-hearted person. To know that about him, to truly see how much he can change the world and doesn't, it shows you how good a person Vic is. Yes, and you were saying there, was it Jay? Someone said that we need a Cyborg movie. Jackson. If not a solo movie, they need to bring him back. They need to mend fences because Ray Fisher and WB have had some real problems. They need to mend fences. He was the heart of this movie. Oh my goodness. Oh, Susan, you lost power. Yeah, we're talking about Justice League now, so hopefully you're in. I really hope Flash's character in his solo movie is more like the one in this movie. I feel like they toned down his goofiness just enough so that I can take his character seriously now. Yeah, I kind of feel like the characterization was pretty similar. I mean, I think in general, the other movie was a little more jokey. So hopefully when they take on Flash this time, I'm okay with this version of Barry being very funny, and I like it being kind of awkward humor. It really works for him. But yes, I'm hoping that Justice League is so well received, and there are going to be people out there that hate it just because people like to hate things. But I'm hoping overall this is so well received that maybe they take notes, that they realize, oh, this version of Barry works. That, you know what, we don't have to make him just funny. He can have serious moments, because some of his serious moments were the best. I mean, that ending with him. I mean, him forcing himself to heal. Him telling Batman, I just need a minute. I need to catch my breath. He was straight up lying to Batman because he knew everything was counting on him. I loved that scene because Barry, and Barry's scene with his dads too, it just showed how much heart he had as well. Yeah, he's goofy. Yeah, he's awkward. But underneath, as they illustrated with the finale, he was a hero. And he proved that to himself. The other League members didn't need to prove it. He did, and I love that was kind of the theme he got for the movie, was proving himself to be a hero. And yes, I hope they carry that over to the Flash movie. That was my long way of getting that. Fear and Loathing. Martian Manhunter is most unnecessary piece of fan service I would never take away, only because we'd never get to see it. I'm the same. I love Jean. I love him to death. He is one of my favorite DC characters. But again, if we were cutting because of unnecessary material, it would be Lois, and then it would go Martian Manhunter. There was so much unnecessary about both those two characters in this that if we were just cutting for time, you could cut this down to probably 3:45, get at least 15 minutes off this thing, and those two would be the things that would go. But this is a director's cut, So I am fine with it staying, and I want more Martian Manhunter. And I love that I do love that it is confirmed finally. I'd read before that that's what the plan all along had been, was it was General Swanson. And he is such a good actor. Yes, yes, he can be Jean. I'm good with that. Did you say we can talk spoilers? Yes, absolutely. We're full spoilers at this point. We are very full spoilers at this point. Um, Fear and Loathing. Flash was still comedic heart, but the difference was that he was obviously intelligent and thought, and though he has ADD, he's extremely brave. Yes, that was the thing. He's the thing we didn't really see in the other version was how smart Barry is, and that's something that they didn't. It was really kind of surprising to see in the moment when he understood. Like Vic was talking about the change machine. That was the name of the chapter where they were talking about the mother box and what it actually did. It didn't. It can't create or destroy matter. It can only change it. That's physics. And Barry understood that, and that was surprising to me. But it, as I thought about it, it wasn't, because I mean Barry designed his suit, which is, as Bruce said, he's using material they use on the space shuttle. So that means Barry's extremely smart. But we didn't get a lot of nods to that until that moment. And then as the movie went on, you saw it more and more how smart he actually is. And I really enjoyed that because I don't think we really got that in the original at all. So to see him not only brave, but smart and overcoming obviously some issues of his own. I don't know if he has ADD. Did they ever actually say that's what he has? I mean, it's kind of what I imagined, but he's also got, some, it seems like, other issues that they haven't really discussed or gone into, which maybe they will in the movie. I mean, considering we were just talking about Winter Soldier and Falcon, where, we're going into trauma and their own personal issues, I don't think people would hate the idea of seeing a hero conquer their own issues, or I don't like the word conquer, come to terms with, so to speak, and learn to live with it. If this version of Deathstroke is anything like the comics, then the League is going to have a problem. Jay, well, yes. The Deathstroke stuff, especially at the end, oh my goodness. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but yes, the Deathstroke, man, Deathstroke is one of my favorite villains. And the absolute teases we got in this, ooh, oh my. But I love a good Deathstroke that is both, I don't want to say good and bad, plays for his own team, works with the Justice League if that gets him what he wants, works with, the Legion of Doom if that gets him what he wants. That's always my favorite Deathstroke. Jay, I like how he snuck into the League Tower and broke Green Lantern's rings, took his ring and wore it to beat all the League except Superman. Right, well, that's, now you're talking non-movie spoilers. We're talking just this Justice League. But, yeah, Deathstroke, well, I guess we can go into that. The fact that they were really setting up what was going to happen later. But I don't want to jump too far ahead because we haven't touched on a lot of things. Like, even, I've got to talk about Superman's resurrection. The way it was handled here, and Bruce in general, and the resurrection. Let's talk about those two things. This movie made me like BVS more. I know I said all that earlier, how I am not really a big fan of BVS. This movie, the way it treated Bruce, made me like his character more and made me understand his character better in BVS. Because in BVS, and I know people kept telling me, oh, he's broken. That's why he's like this in Batman vs. Superman. That's fine, but I never got to see the unbroken Batman. You need the contrast. I need to know what Batman was like before being broken. Because as far as I could tell in that movie, he was just murderous. I mean, he was just brutal and murderous and didn't care about anybody other than his crusade. It was straight up Frank Miller. Well, and as we've seen in Frank Miller thinks Batman's that way all the time. If you start your Batman that way, I just felt like that's all he was. I didn't get the contrast. This movie gave the contrast. It showed who Bruce really was. It showed him trying to pick up the pieces from the damage he caused by letting Clark down, by letting him die, by getting him killed, really. That's his whole journey throughout the movie. The movie ended with him, Batman, decided to bring Superman back, not because of reason, not because of logic, even having the conversation with Alfred, brought him back because of faith. That is such growth for Batman. It's ridiculous. It was amazing, and my heart grew 3 sizes. Fear. I love Bruce's turn to faith. I've never seen a more hopeful and accurate Batman Bruce. He's no longer the Nolan-esque loner. For the first time on screen, superhero Batman has emerged. 100%. 100%. That was the thing I was waiting for a long time. And it came off wrong in the original version. He just kind of went there. Whoops. Microphone. He just kind of went. We didn't see the journey. And in this one, we really saw that journey. We saw how much weight was on him this whole time. And how much optimism it gave him when he found out, I can undo what I did wrong and bring Superman back. And these people can do the things I can't do. That acceptance and that faith. I joke about my heart growing 3 sizes, but it really did, to see that Batman. I've always wanted to see that Batman. Batman's not always just dark. He puts his faith in other people. We need Jack on board for every movie possible for DC, just like Feige is. Oh, Zack, you mean? Yes. I wouldn't go that far because I still have problems with his movies. I hate the neck snapping scene. I hate how Pa Kent dies in Man of Steel. Those are the 2 moments that ruin Man of Steel. Well, don't ruin it. I love Man of Steel. I think it's a great movie. But it was close to a masterpiece for me. If not for those 2 scenes, that movie would be a masterpiece and my favorite, probably one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I would think it's just a masterpiece. But it's not for me because he makes decisions like that. He makes these very hard left turn decisions that go against a lot of what I like about superheroes. Just like Batman literally shooting people in BVS. That, I don't care if it was with guns on his car, he was shooting them. And then, you see, he makes those decisions and it just doesn't sit well with me. So I can't condone him being a Feige. What I would condone, and I 100% support, I want him to have a Justice League trilogy now. I want them to give him the other 2 movies. Do it. Just do it. Go, okay, make these 3 movies. They're going to be in their own timeline. This is going to be their own timeline. They exist in this multiverse where all of this happens with Darkseid. Go, Zack. Just do your thing. I am 100% on board with that. He can snap as many necks as he wants. He can shoot as many people as he wants. I'm in. I just don't want him necessarily doing that with all the other characters because I don't need Shazam to electrocute someone to death or something like that. And Zack will do it. Even as a joke, he would do it. Jay, how did you feel about Ryan Choi, aka Adam? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And they name-checked him a few times just to make sure you knew who it was. Yes, the Atom was in this movie. Oh, so you're into nanotechnology. Yeah, they set up 3 different characters for a sequel. Well, more than that if you count Deathstroke. 3 different heroes for the Justice League in this one movie. They set up a Green Lantern because they showed them a couple times. They showed them in the flashback scene, which was amazing. Even more amazing this time now that we had Darkseid in it. And they set up Ryan Choi, obviously, as the Atom, but they also set up Martian Manhunter. So we already had 3 new characters that could come in to the sequel as Justice League members. He was setting up so much in this movie, and it wasn't heavy-handed, except for Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter was heavy-handed, but everybody else, it felt pretty it felt pretty much just a part of the plot. Like, it felt pretty fluid. Um, this movie definitely made me want a Batfleck movie. Yes. I've always felt that Affleck would make a great Batman with quality writing, directing, and this proved it. I wanted Affleck to make his own Batman movie, but WB didn't like what he was doing, and they canned it, and that's when Affleck quit. He went through Justice League. They didn't like the Batman movie he wanted to make, and also he was going through some personal stuff. So that's when he walked away and said he wasn't going to play Batman anymore, which thankfully, because Zack came back, that kind of seems to have reawakened his love of the character and want to play it. So he played it in this, for, the extra shooting they did. Also, he's supposedly showing up in the Flash movie, which I do wonder if the Flash movie will change a bit depending on the reception to this. So I think I'm hoping there's a lot of positive reception out there for this, because I really want good ramifications from this. We don't necessarily need a grim dark universe from the DC in the DC universe, but it doesn't hurt to have certain things that are. And like the Batfleck movie I'd have been on board with that, especially now that we've seen what Bruce is really like. To see this Bruce Wayne out there trying to take on criminals, instead of, we got the Frank Miller version. We basically got the Frank Miller version in BVS. So give me what in his prime, in his best hero mode, Batman Affleck would be. I want that so bad now. Fear and Loathing. Save it for later. We need to have a multiverse chat. I get the killing thing. I'm with you on that. Yeah, see, that Batman doesn't use guns. I mean, he did in the 89 Batman, and I kind of let that go. I was little, though. And I let that go, and I still didn't, I don't like it that he did it in that movie. He vaguely did in the Nolan movies, but it was always taking out vehicles rather than, I don't even think, did Tumblr had rockets? I don't even remember having guns. So he's always tried to not use guns on people in those movies. So, and in the comics, he just doesn't use guns. It's what killed his parents. It's pretty much phobic for him. He doesn't use guns. And he did it in the car, he did it in the plane, and then he straight up grabbed a guy's gun and shot another guy's gas tank to blow him. Okay, tangent. Sorry. Yeah. See, that's my problems with Zack. He'll go that far because he thinks superheroes have to kill. There's no way they can't do these things without killing. I can see that to a degree, but you should also illustrate they go to the extreme to make sure they don't have to. Because that's what Superman is. That's what Batman is. He has a rule. And Zack doesn't agree with that. If you've listened to him talk, he will tell you he doesn't agree with that. And that's another reason why I say I don't want him to have like Feige control over the DCEU. Because he will go there, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But his own Justice League trilogy, yes. Do it. Go. Kilowog was actually in this movie, seen dead by the Justice League sign in the Dark Side of Future scene. I thought that was Kilowog. I haven't gone back to look at it, but I thought that was Kilowog. But yeah, that's what I was saying. They set up the lanterns, because I remember, well, there was obviously the scene with Darkseid at the beginning where or not beginning, but in that battle. And then the Justice League, the dead lantern was right there at the Hall of Justice. Man, I want the Hall of Justice in a movie now. Thomas Wayne uses a gun as Batman, though. Well, yeah, okay. Thomas Wayne Batman can use a gun. I'm fine with Thomas Wayne Batman using a gun, but not Bruce. So did you eventually get okay with that Aquaman Icelandic chanting scene once you understood the context, or was it just more Zack heavy-handedness? Okay, can you explain the context? Because I was just watching it going, it lost me. I mean, at first I got it because it felt like, okay, they're paying reverence to this person who saves them. But I don't have a clue what in the world I mean, it still went on too long. It was like, okay, I get it. They're paying reverence. Just like Lois getting coffee. It's just that could have been 15 seconds. Done the same for me. Susan, my DC love started with Adam West Batman. And I did not read the comic. Over the years, I've had to grow with each new idea on who Batman is. Some I have liked, some not so much. Right. And that's where a lot of us start. Really. I mean, yeah, that would have been my first Batman too. Because back then, when I was a kid, all we had was Batman in animation and Batman Adam West. And then, well, later, as a kid, I got 89 Batman. But my first Batman was the Adam West, who was very corny and very hokey and a lot of fun. But then we got the 89 version, which essentially is when kind of everyone learned to take Batman seriously and that he wasn't just a joke. And so that's why I think a lot of people have different ideas of what Batman is because we've had so many different iterations. But my ideal Batman, yeah, he just doesn't kill. I mean, I'm okay with the way they did it in the Nolan movies. Like, it was basically manslaughter. Like, he let people die. He didn't intentionally kill them. Okay, people got killed. Basically, that's the way they left it. It was people got killed. He wasn't directly trying to kill them, though. I can live in that gray area because we're dealing with a realistic setting. I just don't like the idea of him just straight up murdering people. Jay, they worship him like a god because he saves their people and brings them food. Yeah, that's kind of what I took from the Aquaman scene was they're paying him reverence like he's a Neptune from rising from the sea. But at the same time, I could have gotten that out of a 10-second chant rather than the minute or so it went on. They see him as a god, he's a savior, but my God, Zack, yeah, fear and loathing. Yeah, again, 10, 15 seconds of chanting. That's all you needed. That's all you needed. And you could have even had Bruce say a line or something, just to himself. Just to, even if you wanted to hammer it home more that they see him as their savior or something like that. Whatever. Just, yeah. It was, that was Zack being Zack. That's really what that was. It was, he was Zack Snydering all over that scene. Jackson, I gotta ask, thoughts on Leto's Joker scene? I was pleasantly surprised by it, even though it was such a small sample. I could definitely see a movie with him and Affleck. I forgot to even mention that. I was completely on board with that scene. That was the best Jokering I've seen Jared Leto do. That scene was amazing to me. I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was because it was a Joker you're not supposed to like. And that's what I finally got from this. You're not supposed to like this Joker. You're not supposed to have, oh, he's fun or he's curious. You're wondering what he is. No, this Joker is just scary and twisted. And you want nothing to do with him. This is a depraved Joker. And it's kind of what the Joker is. But this Joker is beyond what we would normally see. And this is a perfect Joker for Zack Snyder, to be honest. And I think that's why that scene worked for me so well. Because in a Zack Snyder movie, that Joker works. And that is why I'm ready to go to the WB halls and beg for them to make a sequel, because I want to see more. I want to see Bruce kill him now, because that line where he says, "I will effing kill you." And the Harley reference, that she died in Batman's arms asking him to kill Joker, which makes you think, okay, Joker killed her. Joker finally did it. Joker killed Harley. Probably during all this madness, too. And the Robin comments, I could talk for an hour. The Robin comments, him pushing Bruce's buttons, trying to see how far he could get him to go, and knowing he just went as far as he could probably take Bruce, and Bruce still didn't kill him. He's not going to do it. Just, I would watch 10 more. I'd watch a movie with them. I really would. How you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job. Yes. Oh, I mean, really, could he have said anything worse? He was, dead parents, dead adopted son, just kept pushing because he wanted to see if Batman would actually kill him. And that is Joker to me. That is Joker to me. Ooh, is he going to kill me this time? Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? He just keeps pushing. Susan, each one seems to get a little darker. Yeah, Jokers, they tend to. I think at some point we're going to have to reel it back. That's kind of why I didn't like Leto's Joker that well in Suicide Squad. But it was actually just a weird take on it in Suicide Squad. That's a whole different subject. But in this iteration, like I said, it works in a Zack Snyder movie, but it also especially works in a post-apocalyptic scene like that. So I would totally be down with seeing more of that Joker as long as it's with that Affleck, if Affleck's Batman. He was still very much Suicide Squad Joker, but he's definitely evolved. His delivery was great. Still hate the laugh. Love the voices. Right. It was such an evolution. It was like, okay, they took notes from whatever they were doing in Suicide Squad and elevated the performance and actually got to the Joker maybe that Leto himself was even trying to portray. Because all the things they've talked about with Suicide Squad, that movie was edited to death. So maybe his better performance is still on the cutting room floor somewhere, but I kind of doubt it. I think the whole storyline with Joker in that movie was a little off. But, yeah, leaps and bounds better. And part of it is that play off of each other. I really think it was. I think that really elevated the scene. Those two playing off each other really, really elevated both of them. This Joker had a collection of cop badges on his chest, maybe even Commissioner Gordon's badge. Yeah, this Joker, you can tell this Joker has been up to a lot of bad things during the apocalypse. No pun intended. But yeah, during Darkseid's reign, he's been up to no good. But, I mean, how bad do I want to know? How bad do I want to know how that crew got together? I mean, Mira, I can see, but Deathstroke and Joker, how did they get on that team? I desperately want to know this. I need to see this movie. I need to see how they all got together, how Joker, what in Joker makes him think he needs to team up with these guys. Why? Oh, and just before I go into something I was about to say, whoever wrote the dialogue between those two definitely knows how to write a Joker Batman scene. I think it was Snyder. I think Zack Snyder wrote it. I'm going to have to look into that. You could tell the insane history between the two in legit 5 minutes. That's what I loved. It was a true Batman Joker scene. It was a true Batman Joker scene. And Zack had said he wanted to see these two act together. That's why because this was a part of the reshoots. So that's why he wanted to do it, because he really wanted to see these two on screen. And it worked. It just worked so well. But one thing I have to point out that Joker says, and I think that sets up a lot of what's to come, or what could come. The Joker talks about how many timelines have you failed in? How many timelines have you, let Lois Lane die and not died yourself and things like that? I think that was a not so subtle way of already seeding in the multiverse. Because we've already got it seeded in with just Barry going back in time in BVS. But I think this was another way to hammer that home, that a lot of these movies are set in different timelines. Shazam and the Wonder Woman movies aren't necessarily in this same universe. DC's already said this, that they're treating each movie now like they're set in different universes. So I tend to think, and this is somewhat wishful thinking, but I think it's actually possible to do other Justice League movies in this, do a 2 and a 3 solely because, and Zack may have even written this way on purpose, because he's setting up the fact that, well, this is just a different timeline. This is just a different timeline where these events happened. Just like there's a timeline out there where there's a Shazam movie going on, and there's a timeline out there where Wonder Woman 84 happened, and in that movie Diana now knows how to fly, but she doesn't 40 years later. Because it's in a different universe. So I think they really were setting that up. I think Zack may have actually been setting that up intentionally, just a little bit of a nod, just to see if, hey, you can go to Warner Brothers and go, hey, we can always just say, if we wanted to do a sequel, we can just say it's in a different timeline. Jay, maybe the team was even more bizarre than the dream because who knows how many villains and heroes they lost. True. I mean, they could have had the whole future sequence. Timeline, whatever you want to call it. There could be so much going on there. I mean, you could have had maybe the entire Gotham Rogues Gallery was fighting against Darkseid. Because we've seen stories like that. You've got you've got Lex fighting against Darkseid, or he joins Darkseid. Who knows? You've got because he's more akin to joining Darkseid if it puts him on the winning side. You could have had. Well, there's a whole war with the Amazons and the Atlanteans that probably happened that we missed. So many heroes, so many villains are probably joining forces at this point, and it would just be crazy. Well, like just Harley, I mentioned Harley a bit ago. She died in Batman's arms. That kind of makes it sound like they were working together. I want to see Bats and Harley work together in live action, fighting Darkseid's army. It's funny we always speak of ZS's darker tones, but this is an Earth that hosts the anti-life equation, even to the point Bruce is having visions. Age of Heroes died with, Uxus revealed it. How do you pronounce that? I don't know how to pronounce it. Uxus. Yeah. The anti-life equation, I'm a little torn on the use of mother boxes instead of the anti-life equation, because I feel like that, I'm going to criticize the writing at all in this. I think that would be what I'm criticizing. They might as well have just sent Steppenwolf to the world, to Earth, to look for the anti-life equation. Like, he could have been going there because he had a clue that maybe there was anti-life equation here, so he still had to go to. One of those clues was in Themyscira. One of those was in Atlantis, and one of those a scientist had. You didn't need to use mother boxes because mother boxes don't at all do what they made them do in this movie. That annoyed the crap out of me. I was just, no. Why did you do this? Why? It was like saying a lightsaber makes you teleport. It just, no, that's not how that works. Yeah, so I'm not a fan of how they treated that. So I don't know why they didn't just use the anti-life equation as the MacGuffin of the whole movie instead of mother boxes. So that's where I'm annoyed. Usus. Thank you. All right, I want to end this on a positive note, though, but because I do want to wrap up. I truly think it's possible to get a sequel. I just don't think it's as likely. I really hope we do, though. I just read something today where Zack Snyder said that he could see, putting the sequels into comic book form, which, would be nice. At least we'd get to see what the story was going to be. But I really, really, really hope this does well enough that Warner Brothers really takes a look and thinks maybe, just maybe they should pursue finishing the story. Maybe, heck, maybe they just do one more movie instead of two like Zack wanted, and say, okay, you can do one more 3.5 to 4 hour movie. Can you do it? Just like you did with this. We can make it, that can come out in 2 years from now. I would say that's crazy, but the fact that we got the Snyder cut at all, I mean, up is down, left is right anymore when it comes to Hollywood. So nothing is out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, that's all, most of my thoughts on Justice League. I'm sure I have so many more I'll think of after we wrap up. I'm hoping to have my reaction up sometime this week. It's just, it's a lot of editing, and so hopefully sometime in the next few days. I'm hoping by tomorrow I'll have the first part up, hopefully, and then later in the week I'll have the second part. So, at any rate, thank you all for joining me. For those that stuck around, I'm sure I'll have more reactions this week. I'll definitely be doing Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we'll probably do another one of these next weekend as well. I plan on it for Falcon and Winter Soldier next weekend. We won't have a Justice League 2 to talk about this time, just that one show. So, all right, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. Thanks.